Hey, what's up?
Oh, it's good, Oliver. How's it going?
Good, how are you doing?
Hello? Can
Yep,
you hear me?
it's
Can I hear you?
it's lagging a little bit. Wait,
Is it better?
yes. All right. So, how are you doing? Good.
Good, good. How are you? How's your day so far?
Good. Pretty good. It's 9:07 at where I am right now. 9 in the morning.
Oh, nice. Where are you currently based?
I'm in Korea visiting home.
Cool stuff, man.
Yeah,
Pretty chill.
bro. Yeah.
Nice.
And you're
Where,
from where you're from?
I'm from this place called Calgary, Alberta. So currently based in Canada.
Nice. Is it near Toronto?
It's a little further, more inland, so closer to Vancouver than Toronto.
That's nice. And what have you been up to? What time is it there? Is it night?
Yeah, it's like evening, so it's around 6 p.m. currently. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's pretty chill so far in the evening.
Did you have a busy day?
Today, not pretty chill day. It's cool. You got home, did some work. Other than that, probably gonna. It's a Friday night, so probably gonna chill after. So, what about you? How's the start of your morning so far?
Yeah, I gotta stay up all night because I have to talk to people in the States, and they wake up in the time that I'm supposed to go to sleep. So it's messed up.
Yeah, that's crazy. Are you currently in school as well?
No, I'm taking a gap year. I first took a gap year just to do some career stuff here and then transfer. I'm going to Babson next year. Right now, I'm in Stern, NYU, but yeah, trying to go to Babson. Much
Cool stuff.
much more supportive environment for entrepreneurs. Don't really like NYU kids. They're like bratty. Have to spend like have to drop like a 1G per each dinner. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I
Yeah,
don't know.
man.
It's crazy. Well, I mean, how's the gap year so far then for you?
Gap year pretty good. I just try to do something big at first. I was like, didn't work out. So doing something, starting from small, doing content creation. You gotta drop your ego sometimes when you're doing the startup stuff. So
No, I feel like it's a journey, right? Even for me, like it's a lot of learning experience.
yeah, it's learning. But I thought it would be like me going into a startup where people would be like investing millions and stuff. But it's not like that. You gotta really prove.
It's like what the problem is that it's like if you have different perceptions about like what entrepreneurship was and
Hmm.
going into startups, it's so different when you actually start doing it, right?
Yeah,
So when you actually go out there, it's like, oh no, reality hits you. It's like
yeah.
what you see out there, mostly on social media,
Hmm.
is not it. What you see online is so different.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, it's a learning experience, man.
Yeah, for me, I thought like I'll just do like behind the scenes work like a CEO and stuff, but I'm like never thought I'll be doing this content creation and putting myself in the internet. It's messed up.
Cool stuff, man. Like, when did you are you gonna keep doing that, or when did you?
Yeah, yeah, now I kind of pivoted in a way that's more realistic, like doing this content creation, building up audience, and then launching my product after that. It will be in like 5 to 6 months. And it's an online business, community oriented, which I like. So that's
I
how it's
see,
gonna
I
go.
see.
Yeah,
What
man.
are you thinking of doing?
I'm thinking of doing an online community as self-improvement community where we bring in an expert per each self-improvement challenge. For example, if you want to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, you join this chat. If you want to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, you join this group chat. And then to join, you need to pay a deposit. And then for 30-day period, can you hear me?
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, for this 30-day period, you need to prove every day that you're completing the mission of waking up at 6 a.m. every day with photos and doing like writing prompts and everything. And if you fail to prove it, then your money gets deducted from the deposit. But if you complete every day the challenge perfectly, then you can get all of your money back. Yeah.
That's an interesting business model.
Yeah.
It's like, where did you get the idea, or like how did the idea
Yeah.
come to life?
Yeah, the thing is like there's something similar like this, but it's only about waking people up. It's called Alarmy. And then they're making like I don't know, like $65 million per year, and they margin is like 80%. So So what they do is really waking people up. When they wake you up, it's like take a photo in the park next to your house. It's a location based service, and people love it because it really wakes you up, as opposed to these alarm apps that you could just turn off anytime. For us though, like we're not limiting just to waking up early. We're gonna do all kinds of self improvement challenges, like quitting smoking or reading every day or stuff like that. And we're going to have a leader per each challenge to raise up credibility for each challenge. uh, and that leader is going to be in the chat, just encouraging people, having a weekly meetup. This is all just to raise the credibility of the program itself. It doesn't really affect the effectiveness of the system itself. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to do, and I'm kind of building up credibility for myself right now doing this content creation, so that the leaders are like, okay, this kid knows what he's doing. The good college stuff doesn't work anymore. You gotta really do shit.
Yeah, man, for sure, 100%. I mean, that's really cool. So it's like, is that where you got the idea from, or was there a problem you faced, and then you're like, no, or like you just wanted to repeat something that you saw was like really a great opportunity for you?
Yeah, for me, I really wanted to wake up early and go to this morning workout in high school at 5 o'clock with a bunch of my friends. And then I always failed. I always failed, and I was like feeling miserable. And I told one day to my friend, I'll pay you $200 if I don't wake up tomorrow morning. And then I woke up the next day. So that's where I got this idea to get the deposit deducted when you fail the mission and fail the promise that you made with yourself. And that's pretty much where it started.
Okay, cool stuff.
Yeah,
Really
man.
cool. So you're like, when you mentioned when you're you're doing like an interview with like a couple people, like how does that work for you? Or like, what's the context behind it?
Right now, this is a young entrepreneur series. Like you, I just talked to this kid named Sachin, an Indian kid, and he says he knows you too. So
Oh, yeah, he's on my network. He's like, I think he was here. I think he reached out a couple of weeks back. He invited me to his podcast,
hmm
but like I was very very busy, so
yeah,
I couldn't do it.
yeah,
So
right.
how did that go?
That went well. It's just talking. He put a really good show on. So he was like really energetic, talking about hustle, 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 which is a good content. That's what people want to see. These young people doing good stuff, big stuff. So
Yeah,
that
for sure.
so before we dive into the interview, I just want to tell you that you need to kind of be a little more like pompous in the way that you talk. That's just so that we can pump out some good content. And for you, it's a good personal branding opportunity as well. So, all right,
Yeah, I got you, bro.
all
I
right,
got
man.
you, man.
So let's dive right in. So we have Clint Cadio here, and he's a 17-year-old tech entrepreneur, host of the Innovation Cloud podcast, and the founder of Torpedo, that was recently accepted into a competitive accelerator program. And how are you doing, Clint?
Good, good. How's it going, Oliver? It's really great to be here, and I'm really excited.
hmm And we have a couple questions for you. And the first one is, what is Torpedo and what kind of a show is Innovation Cloud Podcast? What is it that you're building, and what's the main message you want to communicate through the podcast show?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. So Torpedo itself was actually just an idea, or not even an idea, but we started off as just me and a friend of mine I met through the program called the Knowledge Society. And Torpedo was spurred from two ambitious teenagers who really wanted to make an impact in other young people's lives. So how we wanted to do that was kind of build an incubator platform for them. But then we thought we tried to get validation early, which we did not. But then eventually our whole idea shifted toward building a platform students build really great portfolios, specifically right now in the tech sector. But one of the things we realized is that giving out different types of advice on building portfolios, it's much more feasible if we try to make it more digitalized. So what we did and what we're trying to do right now is build out the platform, but we're mostly offering the service of either a chatbot that can give you career advice, like, which is one of the things we wanted to focus on, and also really building a platform where you can plug in your portfolio, and there's a portfolio evaluation tool that can evaluate your portfolio based on the current market trends.
Hmm. And what's the main message you want to communicate through the Innovation Cloud podcast?
Yeah, for sure. So I started the Innovation Cloud podcast just this year as well. Started in September. I started in January, and it really started actually our first episode was on the day of the World Cup. So it was just me and another friend from TQS where we basically wanted to create some form of content. So content is a really great way for a lot of young people to get themselves out there. And my message, my original thought towards the podcast was that it was going to be a podcast where we share stories about different types of young entrepreneurs. We, at the start, wanted to bring in really successful entrepreneurs at such a young age, but then we found out that I feel like everyone has a very unique story, and everyone has so many different lessons that they've learned throughout their lives, and it's all about just sharing stories of mostly young entrepreneurs and startup founders. And that's the whole message, is that sharing their success stories, but as well as their downfalls as well.
Hmm. And what have you been like since you were much younger? Were you a troublemaker, a good student? What kind of a person would the world have called you?
Yeah, for sure. So, like, it's really interesting because growing up, I was very conventional. So, obeyed my parents most of the time. Went to school. I grew up in an East Asian household, so they're very heavy on getting a really good education, and I really prioritized that until I hit my mid high school days, where then eventually I became very more radical thinking outside the box, where I was slowly trying out different things, where I was eventually building projects that I never thought I would have. Where then I eventually during that time, throughout my sophomore year, freshman year, that's when I was trying to do things. But I was a really good student growing up. But then eventually my grades started to shift because I started to do other things on the side. But then from there, learn how to balance everything, which eventually led me to the things I'm currently doing today.
Hmm. And even the entrepreneurial ones, a lot of us just think about it when we're that young and just have this plan at the back of our head to do something like what you're doing when we're a bit older, like when we graduate from college after I do this and that. And my question is, what made you jump onto this adventurous path from such a young age?
I feel like, there's just something that really stood out to me when I just started to do stuff. I feel like I was very linear thinking, and I had goals, ambitions, but they were very conventional. And I knew I wanted more for myself. So from there, I just took the initiative, right? But there's this terminology that we call bias towards action, where it's really great to think about things. And it's like for example, playing a sport. It's like you don't want to just watch videos on and on. Sometimes to get better or to know if you like it, you just want to try it out. So to really go down an adventurous route, you just got to take the first steps and initiatives. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, just keep trying, and eventually you'll find something that you like, and eventually find your passions.
Hmm. And you graduated from high school a few months ago. And what was it like to be around your peers who are probably not in the same state of mind as you were in right now, with you doing all of these adult things? So, did you find it difficult to resonate with your high school peers at the time?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I feel like a lot of individuals kind of face something similar, right? If you're not very like-minded with a group of people, you feel like you're not in the right place. But I feel like it's really finding that balance of, hey, what type of environment do you want to create for yourself? So for myself, I grew up in just a small city outside of Calgary. Grew I go to a school where most of the people were very linear thinking. Most of them just wanted a decent career, but other than that, most of them was very conventional. So I wanted to be surrounded by people who were actually radical thinking, where they were going outside the box, very adventurous. like they wanted to change the world and such. And I feel like that's where I joined a program like, for example, TKS, where it opened that opportunity. And I feel like, it's really up to you, because eventually you will learn that the people you're surrounded with, sometimes they have different purposes. Some friends may be just there for you to be, really great friends, childhood friends, but there will be friends, and there's different types of friends that you will have throughout your lifetime, and you will learn to categorize them in different aspects as well.
Are your parents supportive of everything you're doing?
Ooh, yeah, really interesting question. I feel like that's a really question where, for me personally, it really took a lot of convincing for my parents to allow me to start pursuing some of the things I'm doing, because my grades started to drop a little bit, and especially growing up in an East Asian household, a lot of very, very strict, and if something happens, they're very worried. So they were not as supportive at the start, maybe my early high school days, but then throughout, eventually nearing the end of my high school life, I feel like they were eventually more supportive as they were than the start. But it just took a lot of convincing, because you had to show them that there was an opportunity here. Because if you just tell them without showing any form of data points, it would be really hard. So eventually they were not, then they eventually supported me throughout.
But what's a little difficult is that when you try to show those data points to your parents, it might become more like a proving game to your parents. And how do you convince yourself that you're doing these for yourself, not for your parents, when you're trying to prove to them that these data points are what you're doing? And when you're constantly thinking about how to prove yourself to them, then you might get into this rabbit hole of doing things for your parents, which a lot of people say, kind of cliche, but not what you should do in your life.
Exactly. I feel like, yeah, that's a really great question. And I feel like, Oliver, you make a really great point. And it's great that you pointed that out, because a lot of people who do go to university such and such, a lot of them mostly choose a degree or a path that they want to go down to, that it's mostly their parents that wanted them to go down that route, not really them. So eventually those individuals either try to lead to burnout, or they go through that career, but then they don't feel fulfilled, which makes them at the end of their lives feel some form of miserability. And I feel like that's the thing. You really need to understand what you like, and eventually trying out different things that, if you really want to showcase that to your friends, it's not really, for me, I wasn't really trying to prove anything, because I was doing everything on the side without them knowing. It wasn't until they noticed, because I was already pursuing things that I love and I like. It's just that when they caught me and my grades were slipping, and we had a conversation, that's when I told them, and it took a lot of convincing. But for the most part, I was doing everything that I'm currently doing just for myself, because I really enjoy what I do. And it's just hard for a lot of people to really, have those self conversations, because I feel like it's really hard. And for me, I'm very fortunate to have eventually very supportive parents, and that's what I'm really grateful for.
As visible from toxic social media culture, as visible from the toxic social media culture, the world is going more into this rabbit hole of feeling self-conscious and doing things only to show other people. And I graduated from high school less than a year ago, and I know what it's like to be around these high school kids that only care about, having these social status at school, like being cool, getting with pretty girls, etc. And as a person who's laser focused, instead of getting caught up in these noises that your surroundings could have exposed you to, how do you block out all the noises?
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like, yeah, great questions, by the way, Oliver. And I feel like this is one thing. It's like, it really depends. And it can be really personal, different strategies that can play in. But honestly, I deleted and got rid of a majority of my social media accounts, including, Snapchat, Instagram, and a lot of those platforms, because I believe that social media is really a platform where, if you don't end up in the right places, where those platforms are only beneficial if you are a business person, entrepreneur, and you can utilize that and leverage it to your advantage. But once you're stuck in that consumeristic mindset where you're just consuming as much content, eventually you start to see different things, and eventually people are like comparing themselves to other people. And I feel like if you want to focus and you really want to do things that you want to do, it's like understand and set goals and have ambitions, and also understand it really depends on what route you want to go down. So, but for me personally, I felt like social media was taking so much time out of my life that by deleting that, it opens up a space where I can now do things that I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. What's your opinion on the modern day education system?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, the education system that we have, most of the curriculum set out, whether that be in high school, post-secondary, or mostly right now, because I've never gone to the post-secondary route, but mostly for secondary school or high schools, that majority of them are still very conventional, very traditional. Some of the textbooks they use are still worth the same exact textbooks they use in like 2005 or even later, right? So that says a lot, because it doesn't get updated. The education system doesn't get updated each year, and that's what really bugs me, because it's like, how can you spark more creativity, more innovation out of young people if you just allow them to be stuck in this place where they start competing for grades, and instead of focusing on skill sets and project-based learning where you're learning more at such a rapid pace? I feel like the education system just needs a lot of shit, and it's a systemic change. I feel like, it's not just schools that needs to change. It's like the mentality, the stigmas around the current education system. I feel like there's a lot of things that needs to change, but based on the current situation we have in the world, if you think about it, not even everyone has access to basic education. So that's the reason I feel like, education is a privilege. I feel like going to school is a privilege, because I feel like, and then eventually to the point where now that you think about, going through the traditional route, it's more efficient if schools just have better curriculums. And I feel like that's how school can be more engaging, and that's how students can enjoy more of school and enjoy learning instead of like regurgitating different types of information.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, what's your future vision, and how do you want to influence the world in the long run?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really interesting, because what I learned is that my vision I have for myself is just really setting goals and really having a North Star that will push me further than where I am now. So that's the reason why I feel like it can be for anyone, right? No matter who you are, it's like what you want to do in life. It's really up to you, and no one can really determine what you want to do. It's all in your hands. And for me personally, I feel like I want to make as much impact as I want before I leave the earth. And I feel like the space that I want to go down to is potentially emerging tech. But what I learned is that I try to plan so ahead of time, like months and years in advance, that I don't really get to live in the moment. And that's something I learned, like, just very recently, is because it's very linear thinking. But eventually, once you start, opening yourself up to more opportunities and really just focus on attaining as much opportunities that opens up, then there will be serendipitous moments that you realize that you wanted to become an engineer, but eventually you ended up, becoming a teacher. And I feel like that's great, because the fact that you can also set ambitions is really great, but always be open-minded and don't have a tunnel vision, but really have a really open-minded mindset, and it will really set you up for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. So really thank you for this call today, and I'll wrap up the interview here.
Wonderful. Thank
All
you
right,
so much, Oliver.
all right, man.
It was your good.
It was great, man. Oh, jeez, you're a good talker, man. Jeez, really impressed. Never, super impressed. No, I'm no joke. Super impressed. Just super impressed.
You're just gassing me up now.
No. Seriously, I'm super impressed.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate
Like, how do you get there? Do you listen to a lot of podcasts, or did you grow this skill from doing the podcast yourself?
Definitely even for me, I feel like the imposter syndrome still hits right. I feel like it's really, when you talk about like different topics, you brought up so many great topics, and one of the things that I really like to do is just really be like be an active listener. Right? So a lot of people usually try to think too far about what they want to say instead of just listening. And I feel like that's something I've been doing. And it was just recently I learned that if you actually allow yourself to be more like active and you listen, you get to think deeply. And I feel like, like you said, like do you listen to more podcasts, etc.? I mean, I feel like, yes, I feel like if you are able to get as much content, read books, etc., I feel like it really helps a lot. But yeah, it just takes, I guess, it depends what topic. Because I feel like for you, if your passions are entrepreneurship, you can be talking about entrepreneurship and very knowledgeable in that space. And then one person may not know anything about that. They may know sports or whatever. And that could be their niche. That could be their topic. But yeah, it's like, it just takes, I guess, the more you do it, the better you become. I feel like that's my notion towards it.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. Really, thank you for this time. And I'm gonna call this guy Zach LaBerge. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool guy.
Yeah, that's the what is he? The renting business?
Yeah. He's like in the rental space. So
Yeah.
He's like pretty interesting, pretty chill guy. Are you gonna have a call with him?
Yeah, like right now, 9:30. Wait, not 9:30 my time. So, all right, man. Peace. I'll talk to you later. I'll send you this clip before I post and talk if you want. Okay.
Wonderful.
Got it.
Appreciate you, Oliver. Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
You as well.
Peace.
So, take care.
Peace.